And we have Joe Patty. Joe, how you doing?
I am well, brother. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm in Florida and it's a little cooler. I'm loving the weather.
Right on.
So, you are the. Do we call you the former owner of Hair on Pest Control?
Yeah, I'm the former chairman of the board of directors for Heron Pest Control.
Okay.
I was 51% owner from day one.
From day one. And how do you know Josh Alpert?
I worked in Brooklyn for Orchid Pest Control with Josh. I think it was the year 2000 and 2001 because I opened Heron Pest Control here in Orlando in 2002.
Okay. All right. And so you guys worked together at Orkin. He went to go to great things. You went to go to greater things. And here we are today.
That's a fact.
That's a fact. I'm watching you, Josh. So, most of our listeners, if not all of them, know of you through your involvement in the community, in the industry, and then PCT Magazine. You started from zero. You had your hands on the company until the day it sold. What was the final number that it sold for? We know the magazine tells us 20, but we know that there's more involved in that because there's.
Well, the magazine's not accurate. The magazine is telling you what we did for revenue. We did 23 million in revenue, and we sold for 35 million.
Right, so 35 is the actual number.
35 is the number, but it's not published anywhere.
Right, right. We know how those things work.
I'm telling you that because that number is not part of my no compete. So I can tell you with no conflict of interest that we did 23 million and we sold for 35.
Awesome, awesome. That's very impressive. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, what we need to know, it's going to be a lot of you talking and a lot of me listening because I'm humbled but just to even talk to you. But if somebody's just starting out or they've had a company for 5 years, they just want to restructure and become more sales-minded and less service-minded, what advice would you have for them?
Well, the first thing I would say is don't become less service-minded in exchange for being more sales-minded. I think that you probably need to start at the beginning. You need to be more service-minded first. You need to have something that's unique in the industry, and that's what we endeavored to create.
Okay.
We did things that nobody else did. Crazy things like we returned your phone calls. We showed up at your house on time. We answered the phone before it rang 3 times. I mean, these are very simple, fundamental things that we made sure that we did that the industry didn't do.
Okay.
And I could go on, but you get the point. So, I mean, if you would make a phone call and you would leave a complaint for a manager, he would never call you back.
Right.
But our policy was that our computer tracked those phone calls, and that manager was required to call you back before he went home that day.
Gotcha.
Okay, so these are the examples. I'll give you one more. We created a position called the quality manager. A quality manager was just as qualified as a branch manager. And what he did was he took your paperwork from the day before for random technicians, 5, 6, 7 stops at a time from the day before. He photocopied your paperwork, and he went out to your homes that you serviced the day before. And his job was to make sure that you did your job correctly.
Mm-hmm.
You looked at everything, and I mean everything, from the notes to the fertilizer to the weed control, and I'm telling you everything. And on the note that he left for the customer on the door, it said, "My name is John. I'm a quality manager. I'm here today to make sure we did what you hired us to do. And by the way, these are the things that we failed at. And these are the things that we did well. And the things that we failed at will be here tomorrow to correct." Nobody in the industry in 30 years that I've worked in this goddamn industry ever did that.
Right.
And so that's just another one of those examples.
Awesome. So you just
Take that and then bring it into your sales model.
Gotcha. So just the simple things, really.
Simple things, brother, but you know what? They're fundamental.
Sure. Sure. And I hear you. So stay service-minded. Don't get away from what you started, what got you there, and then just transform that into sales.
Well said.
Okay. So,
Because as a salesman, I can go and I can speak to you in confidence and I can say, you know what? Not only am I going to promise you that we're going to do the things that I'm going to tell you, but I have a quality manager who's going to make sure we do.
gotcha. Kind of that old adage, tell them what you're going to do it, and then tell them what you did.
That's right, brother.
Gotcha.
And
Gotcha.
we did it better than anybody else in the industry.
In the country, I hear, for what, 10 years in a row? Or more?
Fastest growing in the country for 10 years in a row.
Man.
It's not by accident, brother.
Right. So, we got a company. We're telling them to stick to what they did best, and then to increase sales. How do they increase sales? Some people, that's a foreign concept.
Well, sales is there's a whole different issue altogether. There's two parts of that are important. If you can't sell the level of your service, first of all, you can't do sales.
Right.
In other words, if I start your home, I'm going to get your neighbor, and I'm going to get the neighbor next door, and I'm going to get the guy across the street, and I'm going to get everybody else because our service is superior. Don't mess around with that first and foremost. So from that, on the sales side, we have two aspects. We have the sales leads that we get because we're that good, and we get the creative leads that we demand. So we would say to our guys, before your day is out, I want you to create 3 creative leads. What are those? Those are people who don't call us and say, please come take my money. Those are people whose doors you knock on and say, hey man, you need my help.
Right. And
So
that,
the combination between the sales, sales leads and the creative leads is what created our sales model.
gotcha. So these are service techs that are doing the service that are required to bring back at least 3 leads to the office that they've generated.
Yes.
It's a good model. It's a really good model.
It's a great model because my guys would go up the next day and say, hey, are we meeting our expectations? Yes, you are. Okay, do you have anybody that you can refer me to? Yeah, let me refer you to my neighbor. I mean, it's really that simple.
Just creating word of mouth.
Yes. And
Gotcha.
that was our sales model. We didn't ask for it. We expected it and we demanded it.
Held them to that standard. No questions asked.
No questions asked. If you can't do it, go work at Massey.
So my question is, did you fire a lot of people for not sticking to your model?
Yes.
Gotcha. No problems with that. You just they fired themselves.
Yes, but let me also say this. I also have sales guys who made over $100,000 a year.
Happily. Yeah, you got it. So, I guess that leads in my next question. Should these guys hold on to people that they don't feel are part of the program because they're smaller? So cut them cut bad weight as soon as possible.
No, we never rewarded failure.
Gotcha.
Never.
I like it.
You were going to be part of this miracle, or you were going to go work somewhere else.
Makes sense to me.
And that was just the end of it. And some people criticize us for that, and some people praise us for that. But let me just go back for a minute. Fastest growing pest control company in the country for 10 years. So there's a reason.
Right, because you had a standard.
We had a standard, and we didn't deviate from it. We didn't negotiate from it. We didn't, I mean, we did what we had to do. And that was it, period.
Sure, and I'm guessing the motivation for that standard wasn't to fulfill what you wanted; it's to fulfill what the customer needed.
Not only what the customer needed, which you're very smart in saying, but also what the revenue model expectations were for the year.
And now to go into that, You had budgets, obviously, that you set. How did you go about setting them? What inspired those numbers, and how did you enforce that?
Well, what we did was we took the revenue numbers that we had, and we started with that.
Okay.
Let's just say, for example, 20 million.
Mm-hmm.
So if I get 20 million, I know I'm going to do 20 million the next year.
Mm-hmm.
So what I would say from that is, if I had 57 salesmen, and each of those salesmen had a sales budget of $40,000, I would extrapolate that math out and say, I'm going to do 20 million because I have it now, and I'm going to do 57 times $40,000 because that's the budget, and I'm going to calculate my cancellation numbers, which I know what they are. They were less than 2%, and that was the budget.
Okay.
And we managed that budget every single day.
All right.
On the board, not every week, not every month, every day. If you're failing behind on your budget, the manager was expected to correct it. If you're exceeding your budget, then you were doing what you were supposed to be doing.
Okay. Where does rewards fall into that?
Well, the rewards, first of all, there were many.
Okay.
First of all, if you met your budget, you made a lot of money.
Sure.
I had guys after 3 weeks of training in a lawn truck making $50,000 a year.
Okay.
I had guys, as I said, as salesmen, meeting their budget, making over 6 figures.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's reward number one.
Mm-hmm.
We also had a company reward schedule that had a graduated scale.
Okay.
If you accomplish this, you achieve this. You accomplish this, you achieve that. And we gave away things like free cruises. We gave away cars. We gave live bonuses. We have built in multiple things based on your capacity to meet your budget.
Sure.
And if you did well, you really did well. I mean, we gave away almost 50 vehicles.
Nice. These are personal vehicles.
No, these were company vehicles.
Okay.
Yeah, in other words, I would say, you know the car that you're driving? Yes. Well, now you own it.
Wow. And they loved it.
We sent them on cruises. We gave them multi-$1,000 bonuses. I mean, we did everything, man.
Sure. But they were...
So
but
we really incentivized them to do well. But you know what the real incentive was? If you did well and you met your budget, you made a lot of money.
Right. And they knew that. They knew exactly... They could do the math themselves.
Yes. And once they brought home their first $1,500 paycheck, they were all in.
Gotcha. It's an easy buy-in.
It's an easy buy-in, man.
There's a lot of companies from $1 million range to $100 million range or more that we've all heard this sales guys hate working for them because every year the sales structure changes for the worse. They keep trying to squeeze as much as they can without paying them as much. What was your counter to that to make them happy and prevent that burnout?
Our counter to that was not only that we increased their sales budget, we increased their sales commission, and we increased it every year. We made sure that we increased it every year because we didn't want any turnover on the sales division.
Right.
We wanted guys who knew what the hell they were talking about.
Sure.
So not only did we increase their sales budget, their sales commission year over year, we also increased their incentive bonuses. These, for example, the guys who got cars, who got cruises, and so on. We made those more and more available.
Sure.
We never squeezed them one time.
Gotcha. And their sale.
You know what? If you sell $50,000 this year, you're going to make 14%. Well, you know what? It's a new year. If you sell $50,000 a month this year, you're going to make 19%. So we always incentivize those guys. We had guys who were there, sales guys who were there for over a decade.
Right. Which is rare. In the industry.
You can't turn those guys over, man. You can't turn those guys over. That's how your sales go from $1 million a month to $200,000 a month. Turn those guys over, and that's how that happens.
Gotcha. And I guess that's how some of these companies get into this growth by acquisition model, because they suck at the keeping good salespeople model.
Listen, I work with those companies. They sit at the big conference tables with the P&Ls in front of them, and they say, where can we save money? And they say, you know what? Fuck the sales guys. Let's take their commissions down from 15 to 13. I've seen it myself. I've heard it 1,000 times.
What would your recommendation to someone who's working in a company and seeing that tactic, what should they do?
They should find a different company to work for. And I mean today.
Like yesterday. Yeah, I understand.
Like yesterday.
So...
Those are the things that they go after. They say, you know what? The sales guys, let's take all their vehicles away. They can't take them home anymore. Okay? The sales guys, we pay the health insurance. You know what? I'm not going to pay the health insurance anymore. The sales guys, I've been at those conference tables. I've seen it in my career over and over again. They're the first place the guys go to make money, and they're idiots. And a lot of those guys leave and end up starting their own business, so really they're just making it harder for themselves. Their own business, or they go in and they find someplace like Aaron Pest Control, man, and we say, come on in, brother, you're welcome, and we love you.
Gotcha. So,
and by the way, that's what happened with Josh.
Right? Yeah, that's what happened with me. I didn't like the fact that they kept squeezing my sales commission, and 1 year they cut about $35,000 out of that next year of potential. And finally I said, you know what? Enough's enough. I got to go.
Well, here's the thing. Not only do they cut your commission, but they increase your sales budget.
Yes.
I mean, it's the craziest thing in the world. It's the craziest thing in the world. If you want to grow a pest control business, that is exactly not how to do it.
Yeah, it was a lot like, hey, James, you ran a mile in 10 minutes. I'm going to cut your feet off. I want you to run 2 miles in 5 minutes. It doesn't make any sense.
That's right, Dave. That's right.
Oh,
we
man.
always gave our guys more money. We always gave them less of a budget. We said instead of selling 60 lawns this month, your budget is 50 lawns.
Gotcha.
And your commission is no longer 14%, it's 16%, and so on and so on.
Sure.
And we had guys who were there, and I'm telling you, James, for 10 years plus.
And I'm guessing you didn't have to increase their budget. They did. They sold more naturally.
They sold more naturally, not because they were just naturally more knowledgeable, but because they were in the industry that long.
It just becomes easier.
When you have 50,000 customers, it's not hard to cross-sell.
No, it's not. Now, that leads me into the next thing. How did you come up with an effective program for cross-selling and upselling customers?
Well, we had this. It was part of our sales model, and our sales model was complicated, but we managed it very effectively. And what we said was, if you were a salesman and you went on a sales call for someone who said, please come to my home and give me an estimate, you were required to do what we call clover leafing.
Okay.
And what that meant was you would give that customer the estimate, and then you would clover leaf. You would give the customer to the left an estimate, to the right an estimate, and across the street an estimate.
Sure.
So don't just go to the person who calls you. Go to the person who calls you, and then clover leaf.
Sure.
And that was one of many components of our sales model. But clover leafing was important because from the guy who called us, we would get a phone call from his neighbor.
Sure.
And so on, and so on, and so on, 50, 60, 70 times a day.
Okay. And then this is a topic that comes up a lot for discussion, company culture. And specifically, you don't grow a company from 0 to 30 to sell for 35 million by having this go sideways on you. How did you and your team bridge the gap between service and sales where it didn't turn into a civil war?
Well, first of all, when you say culture, you're very smart because that was one of the things that we talked about in our meetings the most.
Mm-hmm.
When I sat behind closed doors, we talked about the culture of the company. So what we said was, what can we do as the leaders of this company to enhance the culture so that people want to be here?
Sure.
So what we did was we did things like we stripped away mandatory Saturdays. We stripped away certain daily revenue goals.
Mm-hmm.
We gave you permission to be human.
Sure.
We gave you things like pay for bereavement if you lost a loved one. We gave you free life insurance, which we paid for, because we wanted you to know that you were important to us.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we gave away, God, James, I could go on and on, but these are all things that we discussed because we wanted to make sure that the culture was healthy. Why? Because if you went any place else, we knew you weren't going to find it.
Sure.
It didn't exist anyplace else. If you went someplace and you asked for bereavement pay, or if you asked for flexibility on a revenue number, or if you asked for certain things, it wouldn't happen. Now, I'll give you one more example. We had a girl who was a technician of ours who got sick, and I'll keep the details to myself. And I met with Human Resources, and I asked her how much sick time she had, and I was told that she had a week. And I told Human Resources to pay her for as long as she was out of work.
Mm-hmm.
She was out of work for 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
You go find some place, I won't mention any names, where you think that's going to happen, and I'll mail you a check.
It's not. It's not going to happen. It's
not going to happen, brother, and that's how we built that culture.
Right.
No, and one more thing that's really important. I met with Human Resources regularly, and I said, if you know of anybody in any situation of any kind that has any problems in any way, I want you to tell me about them. And Human Resources, every now and again, once a month, once every 2 months, would come and see me. And they would share a story. And behind closed doors, with that person, very quietly, whatever the issue was, medical, transportation, financial, housing, whatever, we fixed it.
Sure.
And we did it for years. And the only request that we had was that the person at the table never said a word to anybody else.
Mm.
You tell me the name of the company that does that, and I'll mail you a check.
It just doesn't happen. We hope it happens more, but it just doesn't happen.
So when you say about culture, James, that's what I'm talking about.
Sounds like you guys are the creators of really a whole new type of culture.
We created something that was very special, very unique, and something that I'm very proud of.
But I don't even want to say your employees, your extended family, I guess you could call them.
We refer to them as family members. We never refer to them as employees.
Awesome. But they also worked hard for you. Now, sales and service are notorious for pitting against each other. What did your guys do to stop that from happening?
That was never fun. I saw that in places where I worked,
mm-hmm.
whose companies' names I won't mention. That was never an issue with us.
Okay.
Our service was, in my opinion, so exceptional that the sales guys never had an issue.
Sure.
So we never had that problem.
So there was nothing the sales guys could promise that you weren't already doing.
No way.
Gotcha. I gotcha.
That was an issue that we never had to confront. Now, you're smart to saying that because I've seen that in other places.
Mm-hmm.
But that never happened in Erin.
That's awesome.
We always performed and we always did what we said that we were going to do. And because of that, the sales guys never had an issue. Ever.
I gotcha. So let's say you got a company that's somewhere between 0 and 250,000 in recurring revenue. It's an owner operator, and he wants to explode with growth. What should he do?
Oh man, that's a tough question, man. I don't know. God Almighty.
What would be if you were in that position? What would be your first step?
My first step would be to make sure that my service was exceptional.
Okay.
Because I can't do anything if my service sucks.
Sure.
If my service was exceptional, and take my word for it, that's a lot of work.
Sure.
For example, if I go to your house for a service call, I'm still going to blow off the driveway and the sidewalks.
Mm-hmm.
That's just good service.
Sure.
If I'm going to promise you that we're going to deliver good service, I'm going to send a quality manager to your home that I paid $50,000 a year to make sure that we do what we told you that we would do.
Sure.
So, service number one.
Mm-hmm.
Behind that, I would say, once I have service that I can be proud of, then I can train a sales division who can make it a multiplier.
Okay. I gotcha. That makes sense to me.
I think that's probably the shortest answer I can give you.
Gotcha. If it's just one person servicing, one owner operator, we get a lot of them. Should they hire a service tech to replace them and sell themselves until they can get a sales team?
Well, it depends on what their objective is. I mean, I know a lot of guys who want to, I want to run one truck. I want it for $50,000 a month. I don't want to be left alone. Well, if that's their mission, then God bless them.
Sure.
If you want to have 300 trucks like we had, then you better have a different incentive.
Sure.
You better have a guy in the passenger seat that you're training who can do the same service that you're doing because you're excellent, by the way, at what you do, and then he takes over, and then so on, and then so on, and so on down the line. It all depends on the owner's incentive. I know plenty of guys who say, you know what? I don't want 2 trucks. I don't want 5 trucks. Let me do $50,000 a month and leave me alone.
Mm-hmm. And
if you want to do 30 million, the answer is different.
Gotcha. So the owner needs to know what is his end game.
Well, again, that's up to the owner. I mean,
Gotcha.
The end game for us was, we know that the sales model is a multiple of the revenue.
Sure.
And so we said, let's be as smart as we can be about growing the revenue, and then we can talk about, the sales numbers.
Sure.
So for us, we developed a model that grew revenue at a pace that the country never saw before.
Right.
So that we knew that we could get a multiplier that nobody else ever got before. And by the way, we got a multiplier that I think was the highest ever in the business.
Yeah, I'm in Florida, and I've heard of you, and a lot of people have, and it's a name that's still synonymous with success. Even it's moved out of your hands. It's on to bigger and better things, and it's still, the name still is it. It's synonymous with success, and it still strikes fear in the hearts of the competitors today.
Well, you're very kind for saying that, and I know it strikes fear because I'll tell you the 2 reasons why. There were 2 people. We fell into 2 camps. People who admired the hell out of us and people who hated the shit out of us. It was one or the other.
I understand. And I have fallen into that in the marketing world as well. There are people that love me, and there are people that hate me, and those 2 camps are way far apart from each other. But nothing to the extent and success that what you've done. So really, basically, the culture is just a reflection of, I guess, the owner, and the service, just have exceptional service, and you can press full court if you want to.
No, I think you pretty much. I think that you pretty much covered it, brother. That's it. I mean, you have to deliver. I mean, if you don't, you're just like all the other guys, and all the other guys. At the end of the day, I don't want to say anything critical.
Sure.
You have to be better. Period.
Sure.
And then once you start there, everything else can fall into place. You have to have your systems. You have to have your management in place. You have to have all of the rewards and all of the reasons why you want your people to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have the whole structure in place. And once it's there, I mean, it's a no-brainer.
Sure.
But it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of work. It's not a lot of work getting it there. It's a lot of work keeping it there.
Okay.
Because if I run one branch, I can do that with one hand in my pants. If I run 13 branches, I'm busy.
Sure. So, 3 quick questions. They don't require you to go too in depth unless you want to. They're very similar in nature. Number 1, if there's a tech in the industry, what's your one piece of advice you'd give them above everything else?
I'm sorry, James. Repeat that question.
If there was a tech in the industry, what was the one piece of advice that Joe Patty would give them above everything else? Honesty. If there's a management team, any kind of management or leader in pest control, and they're standing in front of you, what advice do you give them?
Respect.
Earn it and give it?
I'm sorry?
I said respect as in command respect or give respect?
Mm-hmm. If I'm the branch manager and you're part of my team, mm-hmm. I'm going to respect you.
I gotcha. So not only command respect, but give respect.
No, I don't mean command respect. You have to earn respect. I mean give respect.
Awesome. Thanks for clarifying that.
I want those guys to know every day that they come to work that I respect them.
Gotcha. That's good advice. Now, the last one is if you have an owner, they're no longer your competitor. Any owner comes and says, "Hey, what's the one thing you can tell me to help me?" What's the one piece of advice you give an owner in this industry?
Oh God, man.
What one word comes to mind?
Service.
I think you nailed it, man. Honesty, respect, and service. I don't think you can go wrong with those 3.
Bro, I mean, I think that's the foundation of Heron Pest Control. We honored our people. We serviced our customers. We respected our employees. And we did all the right things for all the right reasons. And we never, ever, ever made a decision out of greed. We always made decisions out of respect for our family members.
Gotcha. So, lastly, easy question. Someone follows your model, someone's successful, someone retires. What does Joe Patty do when he doesn't run a $35 million pest control company?
Dude, that's not fair. People say, well, you know what? I play golf, I gamble, I fish, I hunt. I don't do any of those things. I sit at my house, at my computer. I talk to my friends, and I sleep until whenever I get out of bed. So that's not a fair question.
Okay, so you're not a traveler. You're not a.
Everybody else will say, well, you know what? I golf every day. I fish every day. Those things don't apply to me. I get up when I get up. I sit at my computer. I sit at my desk, and I do my thing.
Awesome.
Retirement is both a blessing because I no longer have any responsibilities, but it sometimes is a curse because, I'm 57. I'm not 77.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's still a little fuel in the gas tank.
I gotcha. Sounds like you did it more for the love of the game.
James, for 30 years I did.
Man.
For 30 years I did.
So
And I miss it sometimes. I really do.
you say you miss it.
And you know what really sucks? When I call the office and I leave a message and they don't call me back.
No.
It's horrible.
Oh man.
You know, hey, listen, there was a time when I would call the office and they would run from the bathroom to answer the phone.
Right.
And when I call the office and leave a message, nobody calls me back.
Oh
It is
no.
what it is.
That's funny. So it's, I guess it's safe to say you're done with pest control, or should your competitors start to fear that maybe the resurgence of Joe Patty?
I have to be done. I have a 5-year no compete. 1 year into it, I have 4 more years to go. And at the end of 4 years, there's a small company somewhere in Florida that I can sit with and I can help for no money. I ask for nothing. If I can sit with a guy who's really trying to do the right thing, and he's working hard, and he's an honest guy, and he's trying to make it work, I would be happy to sit with him, and I would be happy to help him. I would ask him for nothing, but I can't do that for 4 more years. So for 4 more years, I got to sit at my computer and talk to guys like you.
You don't know what just happened. Everybody in Florida that's just started a business says, "Oh man, in 4 years I get to have Joe Patty be my mentor."
Listen, that would thrill me to death.
Yeah.
You know, watching them succeed would make me so happy.
Sure.
And I would ask them for nothing.
Sure.
But I can't do it for 4 more years.
Gotcha. Well, it was a pleasure having you on. It was a pleasure talking to you, and I'm sure we'll do one of these again with a much harder topic, much deeper, in-depth business topic. But I appreciate your friendship with Josh, and I appreciate getting to meet you, and I appreciate you taking time out of your busy retirement schedule to speak with us.
Well, I appreciate Josh. He's running a good business. I appreciate you and what you do, and I'm here anytime that you guys would like to reach out to me.
All right, Joe. Enjoy your holidays, man. Have a good time.
Merry Christmas, man.
All right. Have a good one. Thank you.